Evidence, evolution. So this is the how do we know that it's happening? What things can we see in living things that tell us that evolution is happening? So, quick review: Darwin's theory of evolution, survival of the fittest. Nope. Struggle for existence was number one on your notes. Yeah. Struggle for existence, survival of the fittest, natural selection, descent with modification, tree of life. You can look back at your notes and review them if you want more, review them in class some more. Most scientists, I would say 99.9%. I don't want to say everybody because there may be some weirdo out there in the world, but most scientists accept Darwin's theory as the best explanation for how we have all these different diverse things on these diverse living things on Earth. I can say words. I shouldn't record videos at the end of the day. my head just can't say words anymore. Again, before we move on to the evidence, remember that the word theory in science means an explanation. So Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection is explaining evolution. There are some things we can see in living things, some dead, some currently alive, but we can still see them, that give us evidence that evolution is happening. Here they come. First one is fossils. I have some fossils in class. We get to look at them. We can physically see them. So we see a skeleton of a T-Rex. We know that a T-Rex exists because we have skeletons of it. It might not exist anymore, but at some point it did. How else will we have its bones? So when a fossil is made, the thing dies, whatever animal or plant it dies, falls onto the ground. If it's in just the right area, then over long periods of time, their bones will be turned into rock. And if they're in not such a great place, they might just decompose, or they might get moved or broken down or separated. So fossils have to be made in a very specific kind of way. So we don't have fossils of everything. We have a lot of fossils, but some of them are really hard to find, and they don't really make very easily. So the fossil record is a great place to start because, again, we can physically see a T-Rex skeleton. But we do have holes in there that we have to fill with some of this other evidence. Homologous means the same. You might remember the word homologous when you did mitosis and meiosis. There were homologous chromosomes. Homologous means the same. Either way, it means the same area. Homologous structures come from the same area of the body, the same area of the embryo. So this picture here is showing you different arms. So the one all the way on the left, that's the human arm. And you can see horse, cat, bat, bird, whale. Those are all of their front limbs. We have the same bones, just in different shapes. So if you have organisms like this that have all the same bones, that probably tells you something about them. You can't decide how your bones look. They just are that way. So if our bones are similar to a cat's bones, but maybe a cat's bones are smaller, they don't have a thumb like we do, but they do kind of have smaller fingers, that tells you something, doesn't it? That their bones are almost the same. By the way, a dog would be very similar to a cat. It just might be bigger. Vestigial structures. Vestigial means that they don't have a function anymore. So they used to have a function, but they don't now. For example, whales have hip bones. That's a whale skeleton on the left. Whales do not have back legs. They have the front flippers and then a tail, but there's no back legs. So why do they have hip bones? Well, must be that they descended from something that had hip bones and they just didn't need those back legs anymore. Another one that's not pictured here, snakes have tiny little leg bones. Again, why would they have those? Humans have a tailbone. You're probably sitting on it right now. That's what this is down here, your coccyx. If we had a tail, it would connect right there on the tailbone, but we don't. So why do we have a tailbone if we don't have tails? So homologous structures, they do have them, and if they are similar, That means that they're probably related at least a little bit. Vestigial structures are things that are still there but are not used, like a human tailbone. But it gives you a clue about who maybe they might be related to. Like maybe whales have those hip bones because they're related to somebody that had 4 legs. Maybe. The next one is embryology, or the study of embryos. So egg and sperm come together. They start growing into 2 cells and 4 cells and 16 cells and 32 cells and more math from there. And eventually all those cells start to form into different structures depending on what DNA tells them to do. Embryos kind of go through different stages and eventually it gets to the point where they're born. But at the beginning of embryos, they all kind of look the same. Here's a bunch of different embryos. These are all different animals. One of them in that row is humans. There's a human embryo in that picture. I'm going to pause for a couple seconds. Look at that picture and see which one do you think is the human embryo. Did you pick one? Which one do you think is the humans? Okay, we're going to remove the gray box. There we go. Embryos you also cannot change. The egg and sperm come together and after that it just does stuff. The DNA tells it what to do and then it's born. So again, if we see similarities, that probably tells you something about them. All of these have a similar looking embryo to start with, so maybe all animals are related. We'll see more about this picture in class. There's some things I want to point out to you in person. Last one, biochemistry. Every living thing on Earth, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, plants, fungi, animals, I think I said fungi twice, sorry. But everybody on Earth has DNA. Even viruses, although some viruses have only RNA. We also all have carbohydrates, and we all have proteins, and we all have fats. It's the same molecules in every single living thing. That's why you only had to learn it once, because it's the same. A lot of the molecule processes are the same too. So like we can do cellular respiration to make energy, so can everybody else. Plants can do photosynthesis. That process is the same for everybody who can do photosynthesis. But if we look just at DNA, if you have more similar DNA, that means you're going to have more similar proteins, and proteins do all the things. So you can look at organisms' DNA and compare how similar they are. This table here is showing you a specific protein that's called cytochrome C. We'll see more about that later. It has to do with mitochondria and stuff. Cytochrome C, number of differences from humans. Chimpanzees and rhesus monkeys barely have any. That must mean our DNA is similar. We're probably closely related. As if you look down here, yeast and wheat, there are a bunch of differences. We're not very closely related. Yeah, we're going to see more about, we're spending a couple days with evidence for evolution. But what you should know from this, you should kind of have an idea of what fossils are, homologous structures, vestigial structures, what we can tell from embryology, and what we can tell from biochemistry and DNA specifically. We'll do many, many examples, but have many notes for now. We do not have a secret word today, but thank you for listening. Maybe one of these times we'll have a bonus double secret word, so keep listening. Maybe it's coming next week. We'll see. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll see you next time.